ever wanted to invest in the likes of Amazon, Microsoft, Tesla, just to name but a few? Well, now you can. Remember this video? Examples of ETFs in each category. I wanted to mention that in Kenya, at the moment, we only have one ETF, and that is the Absa New Gold ETF, which you can find on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Absa New Gold ETF, which you can find on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. But in the near future, we will have another ETF, that is the Equities ETF. This was just announced the other day that Absa is going to launch an equities ETF for the Kenyan stock market in the second quarter of 2025. So stick around for that. Yes, thanks to Absa, we now have an ETF that will allow you to invest in these companies and so many others in our local currency. Well, thanks. Last week, the MSCI World Feeder ETF was launched at the NSE, and I had the chance to be at the launch. So in this video, I'll be sharing everything you'll need to know about this ETF, the second in the Kenyan stock market. So stick around to find out everything you need to know about this ETF and how can you add it to your portfolio. That means how can you invest in this ETF. And before we get to that, let's start with the basics. So what is an ETF? An ETF is simply a basket of companies that you invest in. Instead of picking either Microsoft or Nvidia or Tesla or Amazon, you simply invest in this one ETF and it will give you exposure to all these companies. And this specific ETF, that is the MSCI World Feeder ETF, has over 1,300 companies under it, meaning that when you invest in this ETF, you get exposure to over 1,300 companies, giving you diversification in that one instant buy. So stick around to find out more about this ETF because that is what we are covering in this video. So a short backstory about ETFs in Kenya. The first ETF that was listed in the Kenyan stock market was the Absa New Gold ETF, which was listed in 2017. So this new ETF will be the second one in the Kenyan stock market. And what makes this ETF great is that as per the gold ETF, which was tracking and is still tracking the performance of gold, the Cetrics MSCI World Feeder ETF will be tracking the performance of equities, that is, companies that are listed in over 23 developed countries. Yes, so you'll get exposure to 23 countries. The likes of US, UK, Japan, China, etc. So by virtue of buying this one ETF, you'll be getting exposure to all these countries and economies, to say but the least. And the thing is, with this ETF, it is not the first time that it has been listed in Africa. The first time the Satrix ETF was listed was in the Johannesburg exchange, that is in South Africa. And I had the pleasure of talking to the CEO of Satrix, who in the few minutes that we discussed, I could say that she's very passionate about making investing opportunities accessible to Kenyans. So can't wait for the second or any other opportunity that the company makes. So shout out to the Cetrics team. Apart from that, apart from giving you exposure to over 23 developed countries and over 1,300 companies in this ETF, the best part is that one, you'll get to invest in it in our local currency. You don't need to go through forex, exchanging currencies and all that. With your Kenyan shillings, you can get started with investing in this ETF. All right? Okay. So one other thing that I think will be beneficial for me to mention is that, well, for ETFs, there's something that we call the total expense ratio, which is how much the management fee is charging you for investing in it. And this amount is deducted from the returns, not your initial investment. So for the Cetrics ETF, the total expense ratio is 0.35%. And before you get welled up because how can they be charging you yet you're giving them money? Well, the same way unit trust or money market funds charge you 2% per annum, or your stockbroker charges you 1 to 2% per transaction. For these ETFs, they charge that amount, and based on you compare the other forms of investments with the ETF, this ETF has a relatively low expense ratio, which is 0.35%. So let's say that Satrix ETF gives us at least 10% this year. That means 9.65% will belong to you, which is low. All right. Leave your questions in the comment section and I'll be happy to answer them. So here is an image of the top 10 companies that this ETF holds. Number 1, Nvidia, followed by Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Meta, that is Facebook, the parent company of Facebook, Broadcom, Tesla, Alphabet, and JP Morgan. Let me know, would you like to own a piece of this company? Let me know in the comment section below. So this index fund is well diversified across different sectors. For example, it holds 25% of its holdings in tech stocks, 17% in financials, 10% in healthcare, and 11% in other industries. So apart from giving you that diversification, you know that you have a foot in each industry, right? Okay. So I have a few questions that I think as an investor you'd like answers to. So one such question is, can I buy this ETF in our local currency? And the answer is yes. How do you get to do this? You get to do this by going to your trading platform, searching for this ETF, and once you see it, just tap on it and tap buy. So yes, you can buy it in Kenyan shillings, the same way that you buy Safaricom shares or any other Kenyan stock. Is the same way that you can buy the Satrix MSCI World Feeder ETF. The second question I believe you have is that, is this ETF safe? The simple answer is yes. Why? Because it gives you exposure to world companies that are listed all over the world. As I've said, you'll get to invest in 1,393 companies. And these companies are in over 23 developed economies and countries. So is it safe? Simple answer, yes. But as remember that anything that you invest in is not 100% safe. So make sure you do your due diligence and check whether it aligns with your financial goals. If it does, well and good. If it does not, and you still have questions about it, do more research and make a decision from there. But however, I need to let you know that this type of investment is built for long-term investments, not short-term gambles. Yeah. And the average annual return for this specific ETF has been 10% over 10 years. Yes, and this is in USD, right? Which is relatively good. For example, last year it gave a return of 18%, I believe. So the next question is gold versus the MSCI World Feeder ETF. Which one is better? Well, in simple terms, gold protects the value of your money, but this ETF will help the money grow. Why? Because it gives you exposure to industries like tech. We have seen the performance of Nvidia over the past few years and even the past few months. So while gold protects your money, the value of your money, this ETF will give you growth and so much more. As we continue with this video, I'd like to remind you to hit that like and subscribe button. And yeah, hit that like and subscribe button. This encourages me to continue creating videos. So hit that like and subscribe button. Yeah. Back to the video. The next question is why not just buy US stocks? Simple answer is yes, you have the freedom, you have the liberty to invest in these individual stocks. But for the new investors who simply don't have the time to keep on doing research, to keep on picking one or three companies, this ETF will give you exposure to more. Instead of just picking just one, you can just invest in this ETF, and from there you'll get diversification as well as have your portfolio grow. All right. Another question is in terms of dividends. When I invest in this ETF, that is the Cetrics World Feeder MSCI ETF, will I get dividends? For my dividend hunters, the answer is no. Why? Because this is a non-distribution fund, and what this means is that when you invest in this ETF, all gains are reinvested into the fund. So for my dividend hunters, this is a no for you. You'll not be getting dividends. However, for the people who invest because of capital gains, this is a plus for you. Why? Because most of the revenue made will be reinvested into this ETF. All right? Okay. However, let me know, should I share a list of dividend paying ETFs in the next video? Let me know in the comment section below. So yes, let me know, should we share a list of monthly dividend paying ETFs in the US stock market, and I'll do my best to give you the updates. Right. Another question is in terms of the risk profile. Well, with anything that is listed in the stock market, it is high risk. Yes. So the risk profile for this ETF is aggressive. So note that before deciding whether to invest in it or not. When an asset has high risk, it mostly comes back to high return. High risk, high return, low risk, low return. So note that when you are deciding whether to invest in this ETF. Another question that I anticipate you will ask, what is the share price of this not share price, unit price of this ETF. And the MSCI World Feeder ETF at the moment is trading at 761 shillings per unit. So initially, to buy equities listed on the Kenyan stock market, you needed to buy at least 100 units of 100 units either of shares, or in the case of ETFs, 100 units of the ETF, meaning you would need at least 76,100 shillings, minus commissions and all the other expenses, to invest in this ETF. But starting 1st August 2025, the number of units or shares in the Kenyan stock market you'll need to buy will be lowered to at least 1 share. So note that beginning 1st August, you'll be able to buy just 1 unit of this ETF and 1 share of these companies that have high share prices, the likes of Kakuzi, Williamson Tea, etc. You'll just need to buy 1 share of these companies. So if you're interested in this ETF, starting 1st August, you will be able to buy 1 unit of this ETF. Leave any questions that you have about this and any other ETF in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to answer them and read your thoughts on this ETF. So one important thing that I think you should know, this ETF will be tracking, will track the index using the iShares Core MSCI World UCITS ETF. So as a savvy investor, I would recommend that you look into this specific ETF and its past performance.
Market participants and partners, thank you for joining us for what is truly a landmark occasion for Cetrics, for Kenya, and for the broader investment community. The listing of the Cetrics MSCI World ETF on the NSE is not just the ringing of the bell, it's the ringing of a new era of access, inclusion, and an opportunity for all. It is really about democratizing investments for everyone, something that we are very passionate about at Cetrics. This moment has been over 7 years in the making, and we are especially grateful to the Nairobi Securities Exchange and Kenya's regulators for their patience, insight, and commitment in bringing this dual listing to life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is only the second ETF ever listed in Kenya, and we are proud that it carries the Cetrics name, a name that, if I may share with you, has been in the making for 25 years, and for the past 25 years has been synonymous with innovation, democratization, and the trusted index investing in South Africa. So we launched the country's very first ETF, believe it or not, back in 2000. And today, we offer 38 ETFs listed on the JSE, spanning across South African, global equities, and across various asset classes. With over 77 billion, and that's about 560 billion Kenyan shillings in assets under management. And this is only just for the ETFs. If we combine all our instruments, that adds up to about 1.7 trillion Kenyan shillings. The Cetrics MSCI World ETF is our flagship global equity fund and has won various awards, including the People's Choice Awards back home in South Africa. Quite exciting, as it was first listed on this.
That is it for this week's video. Let me know what questions do you have about this ETF? And I'll see you in one of these videos that YouTube recommends. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.